Who wants a better relationship with their daughter? Okay. So who feels like they're really struggling right now in terms of their relationship with their daughter? A couple of you. Okay. Do you mind sharing just a quick blip? What's one topic that keeps coming up or is getting between you being able to connect and have the relationship you want with your daughter? Okay, so this is the one issue is you can't connect the way that you want to because of a division of thinking what's right with her mother. Okay. Who else? What's something else that gets in the way of our relationship with our daughters? What's getting in the way? Yeah. Phones. They don't want to talk to you, right? They want to get on their phone, talk to their friends, do the video games, do the social media, right? So you're going, hey, I want to have a relationship with you. Let's talk, let's eat together. And they could care less. And then if you take that phone away, they get ticked. They're not happy with you. And then they're talking to you, but they're talking to you with an attitude, right? What else gets in the way? Oh man, you're afraid. You know you're wise. You know what's up, and they won't listen to you. You can't stop them from making a disastrous decision, and you're angry about it. You're scared for them, and they don't see that you just love them, and they're going to take it out on you because you just don't understand. And you're going, but I do understand. And they're like, no, you don't understand, and I don't care what you have to say. And then next thing you know, your really good, wise advice is getting in the way of your relationship with them. What else gets in the way? Yeah.
And kind of to build on that, if they hear from another parent, then the same advice, then
they take
it's all knowledge.
Man,
I just told you that.
Yeah, you not only can't build a relationship with them in the way that you want with the information you have, they're willing to listen to somebody else and not you. They are ridiculous. They just will not give you the benefit of the doubt, and you're the one who has been raising them this whole time. This other person didn't buy them their car or clothes or go through the rigorous, day in and day out, making money, trying to take care of the house, and they're not helping you help them. What's one more thing that gets in the way? Yeah. Boys. Not just boys, but all of their friends and their romance, right? They are at a stage in life where prior to today, current society, they would have been seeking out things that we really don't want them seeking out yet. Right? They played a whole different role traditionally in the history of the world until very recently in time. And that's getting in the way of you preparing them because they're more focused on a boy or a friendship that they really want. Right? And so there's all these obstacles, especially for men having a healthy, happy relationship with their daughter or son. Right? Now with a son, at least you can do some of the, you know what they like, and you can just kind of go off and do some stuff. A lot of you guys like to play video games, and your son likes to play video games. You can go outdoors and do some of that stuff and roughhouse and everything for some of the boys. But man, with a daughter, it's a special relationship, isn't it? And there's something, we're protective over all our children, but there's something that really gets in the way that wasn't said yet. And there is this innate instinct in all of you, especially with your daughter, that gets supersized with a daughter, and that's the instinct to protect. And you would rather protect instinctually then make sure that the relationship comes first. Now, I don't want any of you to sacrifice your morals or your values. Yes?
Brandon, can you say that again? What you just said, your instinct.
Yeah, your instinct to protect will often innately come before that instinct to build the relationship. And then here's what's really a bummer. They don't let you protect them. Sometimes your wife doesn't let you protect them the way that you know they need to be protected, right? And so here's the thing, okay? I never want you to sacrifice your morals or your values. But I do want you to walk away today with the idea that it is so important that you put the relationship first. I'm not saying don't protect them. I'm not saying, hey, pretend like morals and values don't. I'm not saying give them permission to do whatever they want and let them walk all over you and not that laissez-faire parenting. That's not what I am ever going to promote. Okay? But what I am saying is, focus on what you actually control, not what you think you should control. Focus on what you actually control. Try to be honest about the things that you don't control so that you can set them aside, even though you know you should be controlling these things. And have the mindset, if I am going to walk alongside my daughter, and I am going to put the relationship first, the relationship comes before protecting when I don't have an opportunity to protect anyways. Because here's the truth. No matter how hard you try to protect your daughters, if you ruin that relationship with them, you are not going to protect them. You are not going to influence them. In fact, every parent I talk to, I tell them, you are building a relationship, you are influencing them for when they turn 30. See, some of you are trying to get results now. Especially when you end up at a school like this, right? I mean, come on, you got to get the grades. The whole point of pouring money into a school like this is so that they have an opportunity to be more successful. And when they make poor decisions and you set them up like this, it hurts. It does not feel good. And you really have the rug pulled out from underneath you. But you see, we always put the relationship first. Your child fails at a school, you put the relationship first and you set boundaries. Don't get me wrong, you set boundaries, but the anger doesn't come out. You find a way to walk alongside them. Can you imagine if your child gets asked to leave Rosary and you've got to love on them while also setting boundaries? I'm not saying, hey, don't do anything about it. I'm saying that's a really good time to love on your daughter because they're having a hard time. And especially when they fail, we want to make sure we're walking alongside them and influencing them. Does that make sense, you guys? Now, I have this hierarchy that I teach. I developed this a lot of years ago. And it helps parents get in the mindset to walk alongside their children, but it also helps you focus on what is going to make you most influential in their lives. Now, a lot of you think if you can just find the right words, you'll be influential. If you can just speak louder than everything and everybody in their life, you will be influential. If you can be scary when you need to be scary, but funny when you need to be funny, you will be influential. And unfortunately, that's not always true. For some of you, you have a really compliant child, and you're going to knock it out of the park, and you're going to feel good about yourself no matter what you do. Some of you have a child who's a little more spirited, or we call defiant sometimes. And for you, you're going to feel like a failure when you try to do the normal punishment and reward thing, right? You're going, I did the perfect punishment, I gave the perfect speech, and my child is still not listening to me. I still can't get them to even come out of their room. Does that sound familiar for any of you? See a lot of heads going, oh my gosh. Now, this hierarchy that I'm talking about, it's really important. Okay? The hierarchy goes God, self, marriage, then parenting. Okay? Now, a lot of you can agree with that, right? Does anybody disagree with that one? Right? It's easy to agree with technically, but it's really hard to put into practice. Because when your child's struggling the most and your marriage is falling apart and you yourself feel like a failure or you're feeling like you got to work too much, that's when things start to really become real. You see, it's God, right? What is my connection with God? How am I relying on God right now? Self. Am I taking care of what I call the 6 pillars? That's the areas of your life you need to put time, effort, and energy into. Real quick, they are relationships, they are mental health, it is spirituality, it is your fitness, your health, and your nutrition. It is your career or your education that you're going through, and it's hobbies. It's real easy, right? What do men do? The protective man that needs to provide. The whole world's shutting down, your family's a mess, and so you work harder so you can make more money so that you can pay for everything and make sure that at least the nuts and bolts don't go away. You don't put yourself first. You don't make sure that you are focusing on a hobby, because how can you focus on a hobby? Everything else is a mess. You don't make sure that you've got connections like you guys are forming right here tonight with each other, because there's a crisis at every turn. You don't make sure to take care of your health because you don't have time. You're working too much. And then when you get home, you got to deal with your wife. You got to deal with your kids. You got to mow the lawn and fix the dryer. And I'm saying, hey, take a look at the hierarchy. God's self, then marriage. I can't tell you how many parents come in, they say, hey, I need you to fix my child. I need you to, and parents love to do this, I need you, and then they give me the list of things that they've tried to teach their kids, right? And so it's like that thing where they think they're going to listen to me because I'm somebody outside, and they just want me to regurgitate the parenting that, and I don't do that, by the way, guys. I am a research-based therapist. I practice therapy. I don't tell them what you want me to tell them. But it's mind-blowing. I can't tell you how many parents come in, give me their child, say, fix the child, and I say, I won't see your child until you are in marriage therapy. And by the few months going on doing marital therapy with these parents, even though they're great parents, do you know that that has a larger influence over the kids than any therapy I could do for the kids? That's why the marriage is there. You see, marriage, working on your marriage, has a greater influence over how you will parent and how your kids will receive parenting. You taking care of yourself and being okay is going to have a greater influence over how your kids receive your parenting and your influence than anything you can get for them directly. Okay, does that make sense, you guys? And then when we put parenting in there, and this is going to blow your minds. I have this thing called the 90-10 rule. Okay? The 90-10 rule says that I want you to spend 90% of your time not parenting the way that you think parenting is supposed to be done. Superficial, like nothing. Telling them about your day, talking about a concert, talking about the weather. Just totally surface nothing. 90% of your engagement with your child. And some of you are going, but I only have 10 minutes a week. So yeah, figure out the math, okay? And then 10% of your engagement is parenting, the hard stuff, talking to them about school, talking to them about the fact that they're not coming out of their room, or they're not listening, or that you need them to stop seeing the boy that they're seeing, or whatever else, right? I mean, can you imagine shifting that? Most of you are doing 10-90 instead of 90-10. In fact, I have some parents who come in and things are such a mess, the first thing I tell them is stop parenting. And what do you mean? I mean stop parenting, like give them food and maybe a ride to school, stop parenting. Anything else, stop it. Stop it for 2 weeks. Now, when you parent less, oddly enough, you're more influential. Isn't that mind-blowing? But we know that wisdom, right? Those of us who have ever been in a debate, we know that the one who talks the most is the least influential, and the one who can say a few words is the most influential, right? Most of us grew up loving Clint Eastwood. Why is his character so powerful? Yeah, because he can kick some butt. But really, it's because he says very little. And he's so, monumentally influential. in what he says, right? Speak less. The parenting stuff. Talk more about like fun stuff. You know that most of your kids don't really know you. You think they know you because they've been living with you for so long and you've given them so many lessons, but a lot of them don't even know what you do for a living. You're like, yeah, but they know what I do. They know what I think. I've taught them right from wrong. I've done this. And a lot of them don't really know what you're doing all day long. I can't tell you the number of kids who, when I ask what their parents do, they're like, well, they're a lawyer. Well, what do they do all day? I don't know, lawyer stuff. No, like, what's your dad's day look like? I don't know, but when he comes home, he's ticked, so it must not be good. I don't want to know. I don't care. I just know whatever he's doing, I'm not going to do. Isn't that wild? You think they know, but they don't know you. Talk about some fun stuff. Right? Now, how many of you want your child to be educated? How many of you want your child to take on your morals, your values, your faith? Okay, great. I'd like some ideas. How do we best influence our child? Because tonight they wanted me talking about bettering the relationship, but I think what you guys really want is to ultimately be a great influence in your child's life. Now, I'm gonna bum you out real quick before you answer me, right? Because I want to know a few ways that we can be influential in their life, right? But you know that you only have 11% at this point in their life? If you optimize your greatest influence, the most influence you can have over your child, it's only 11%. So you guys are all fighting to optimize 11% influence over your child. And I see some looks you guys are giving me. You're going, want to bet? Do you know who I am? I influence them 100%. No, you don't. You only get 11% of that window because there's school, there's counselors, there's teachers, there's coaches, there's friends, there's social media. There is a whole host of influences going on in their life, and you are the one influence that they are fighting most against. Why is that? Because every cell in their body developmentally is telling them to get away from you, to find independence, to be successful on their own. And every cell in your body is saying, get over here, let me protect you, come closer, come closer, come closer. Well, guess what? Not to make you guys bummed out, you missed that part of their child development, or you didn't miss it, where they were seeking you out, seeking you out, seeking you out. Now, some of you have kids who are still seeking you out, and that's great, but a lot of you have daughters who are like, hey, during the most difficult times and when it's least convenient, I'm going to come close to you, but then when you want me close, I'm out. I am going to come over here. Your influence is only about 11%, and you want to optimize that. Some of you who are struggling with your relationship have 0% influence. In fact, you might have a negative % influence. So my job when I work with parents is to help them optimize only 11% influence. Isn't that wild? Anybody depressed yet? So how do we influence them? What do we do?
Lead by example.
Love it. That is on my top list. One way that we influence our child is modeling. Absolutely. What's another way? Yeah.
Listen more, speak less. That's something that you're present, just be present, and then it keys into what kind of discussion you're going to have.
Absolutely.
If you actually heard what they're saying, you can repeat back, see what you're saying is, or...
I'm gonna throw a wrench in that. A lot of you, because we talk about the listen these days, right? That's like all over social media. If you see social media, people are talking about that. If you haven't figured out how to listen, okay, I want you to remember, it's figure out how to listen regardless of agreeing with them. Some of you are like, listen, I hear you. No, you don't hear me. No, I hear you, and here's why you're wrong. Sometimes you don't get a really good session of listening to your child is you don't respond at all other than thank you for sharing with me. And inside you're burning because you're like, I've got the answer, or oh my God, if I don't say something right now, are they going to go out and ruin their lives? And they might fail the test tomorrow if I don't step in. No. A lot of times listening is just listening. And not even telling them that. Sometimes a good listener says, I don't know what to say and I don't even know if I understand you. You know, that kind of honesty goes a long way with a child. You can tell them, I don't get it, but I really want to. A lot of parents respond like this, oh, I totally get you, and here's why I get you, because this happened when I was little, and it's just like what you're going through, and you just lost your child. Man, be quiet. There's a time to share your past experiences, and usually it's like in the car when things are lighthearted and funny, and you just get to connect, and it's not usually when they need to be heard. Okay? Yes, sir.
Show them how much you love your wife.
Yep, that falls under modeling. One of the greatest things you can do falls under that marriage. Modeling healthy, loving relationships with your wife. And I know some of you are going, I try to, but you don't know my wife. It is impossible. I don't care. You focus on your end of it. Who are you? Who do you want to be? And how are you going to act to be that person? Regardless of your child, your wife, or whoever is difficult in your life. Okay, so we've got modeling in various ways, right? We've got listening. What else? How do we influence our child? Yeah.
Just engaging, like being present, being with them.
Good, absolutely. You've got to have a relationship with them. By the way, a relationship is not I love you. A relationship isn't built over instructing somebody, but that is the way you influence them. You do need to teach. That's another one. I'm going to give you guys that one. You've got to give the lessons. But that's not where the bulk of the relationship is going to be built. Right? The relationship is in the engagement. Here's another one I'm going to give you. Loving on them is not the same as loving them. You influence your child because you love on them. That includes listening to them. Loving on them is much different than loving them. Now this is a really controversial thing I'm going to say. Please don't kick me out of here. Abusive parents love their children much of the, if not most of the time. Some of the worst abuse cases, I've seen parents who really don't love their children, but some of the worst abuse cases I've seen, the parents did love their child. They couldn't, for some reason, or didn't know how to love on their child. Loving your child is totally irrelevant in building a relationship with your child. They have to experience you loving on them, listening to them, engaging and laughing with them, sharing about yourself with them. Not sometimes, not once a month, but a lot, 90% of the time. You see, loving on your child is something that you can learn to do and you should be striving for. Loving your child should be an automatic, and when it's not an automatic in a parent's heart, I can't help you because there's something wrong with you. I teach parents to love on their child all the time. But I have a feeling every single one of you loves your child, but some of you are probably struggling to figure out how to love on your child because they're not receiving your love. Sometimes loving on your child is not taking it personally when they reject you. Trying again. You know that parenting relationships are really interesting. We think of it as reciprocal, don't we? I love you, you love me. I give to you, like this amazing school, you give me back by getting the grades. I can't tell you how many parents say that. My role is to give you this opportunity. Your role is to fulfill this opportunity. You see, there is something weird about the parenting relationship. It is not reciprocal in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that they're not going to love on you sometimes, and I hope that, and I pray for that for you. But what I'm saying is it is a different type of relationship, and it mirrors our relationship with God. It is what I call a legacy relationship. They can never and should never, and you should never expect them to give you what you have given them. It is a legacy relationship, which means you don't take personally that they can't fulfill your heart and take care of your emotions. It is a legacy relationship that you are passing on to them so they can pass on to their kids. And a lot of parents get that wrong. You take it personally, you get angry at them for not loving on you the way you loved on them. And I'm not saying don't teach them to be respectful. I'm not saying don't teach them to love on you. But you see, if our mindset's got to be, I know this is a legacy relationship, but they can never give me what I give them. That's going to set you up for success. Especially as a teenager. Some of you guys are coming at your daughters as though they're adults. You're expecting things of them that they just can't understand or give you yet because they don't have the experience. They haven't failed enough yet. So we've got loving on our children. We've got making sure that we model our morals and values for our children. Right? We've got making sure that we model the marriage, which is really important. Okay. We've got teaching them a lesson. Teach the lessons, darn it. I tell parents, teach the lesson once, maybe twice. If they didn't understand or you didn't get everything in there, the third time's insanity. Because they've got it, it's just they haven't come to a place to accept it, right? Isn't it funny, how many of you guys repeat? Anybody go, oh my gosh, I've told my daughter this 1,000,000 times. Anybody? Okay. Follow this. Say it once, maybe twice. Third time's insanity. I'm telling you, you say it that third time, you just shinked away at the powerfulness for when they're how old? 30. Man, you guys are like the best listeners I've had so far. Boundaries. Boundaries are not, I'm going to punish you and reward you. A lot of parents get that wrong. Okay, in fact, since the 70s, maybe before, we've known in psychology that punishment and reward, token economy, is not influential. It can be influential for like rats. It can be influential for children who are compliant. But what it's not, it doesn't change. Now, here's the thing about compliant children. You could do token economy and it works beautifully. You could just kind of give them a stare and that's going to work beautifully. You can beg and plead and that's going to work beautifully. But with those defiant, spirited children, especially your daughters, you're going to start punishing and punishing and punishing, and then they go, I don't care. Take it away. And you're going, what do I do now? Or the reward, right? You're going, I went to Servite and then I went to Santa Margarita. When I got to Santa Margarita, every single kid there had a car that was worth more than both my parents' cars put together. Right? Now, here's what was wild. A lot of those cars were given as bribes for good grades and bribes for sports accomplishments. And you want to know how long that lasted? 2 weeks. I started seeing that pattern when I was young, and then I really saw it when I became a therapist. It doesn't matter how big the reward, when you give a reward, especially if you give it out, you say, hey, you get this if you do this. Man, kids can turn it around for 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, but then after that, it's done, right? And that's that old classic, they promised that they would do this, and they did it, and I thought it would be changed, and then I gave it to them, and it creates resentment, and it creates conflict. Now, boundaries. Boundaries are done with things that you control. Boundaries are meant to protect you, not to change them. I could literally talk about boundaries for 10 hours tonight to help you guys understand it. But try to remember this. Boundaries are protective. For instance, if I don't want to participate in my child getting distracted by all the media at home, all the electronics, I may turn off the Wi-Fi at a certain point. Now, I'm not doing it to punish them. I'm doing that because that is protecting myself. I don't want to participate. Not, I'm going to punish them to teach a lesson. When you use boundaries to teach lessons, they backfire. When you use boundaries to protect yourself, it actually builds the relationship for when they're how old? 30. Okay. Any thoughts or questions so far? I just threw so much at you guys. What's it like to hear?
Can you explain that just a little bit further, the boundaries for yourself? Or
Yeah, okay, I'll explain with an example.
Yeah.
How many of your kids refuse to pick up their stuff in the house? Right? Now, some of you raising your hand, your wives feel the same about you, by the way. But we're not talking about that. Here's the thing. That issue comes in my door all the time. When I do couples work, does anybody know the most common issue that I hear about? It's not the issue that they're coming to, but the most common issue I hear about in couples therapy?
dirty dishes.
Yes, who said that? You're hired. Exactly. Dirty dishes. I can't tell you how many conversations in my career I have had about dirty dishes, clothes on the floor, dirty rooms. I mean, it's mind-blowing. Nobody told me when I was getting my degree that I was going to have this conversation all the time. It is in none of the psychology books. I don't know why. So I came up with this black bag boundary. It's my way to explain boundary setting in a very simple way. And it addresses that. The messy house. Now, a lot of parents will bug and nag, and they're like, I have to, because they won't, and they will reward and they will punish, and by the time they're coming to my office, you would think that a dirty house is the equivalent of their child murdering somebody, and it's not, you guys, okay? A dirty house is like a 2 or a 3. We are not going to make that a 10. But I will empower you right now, and it actually comes from something my mother did to me. Okay, so back in the day, when I was going to Servite, my group of friends, we had to wear what we had to wear there, but then in our off time, we liked to wear the grungiest, cheapest, most ill-fitting clothes that came from thrift stores, right? And I had tons of these clothes. They were like 25 cents a piece back then. Now it's like $50, but it was 25 cents a piece. I got shoes, I had the most ragged clothes, and I would leave it everywhere. My mom said one day, hey, if you don't get those clothes up off the ground, before you, I think I was going to a water polo tournament or something, before you go to water polo or wherever I was going, I'm throwing them away. Like, I'm not gonna throw away my clothes. What parent throws away their clothes? I came back, and all my clothes are gone. I had like a few that I hadn't left out, and I'm going, she didn't throw them away. It took me like 3 weeks to figure out, my mom threw all my clothes away. She didn't get mad, she didn't nag me, she told me once, and she threw them away. She was not bluffing. She even offered to buy me as many clothes as I wanted. My parents didn't have that much money back then. But the condition was, you can use our money to buy the clothes that I want you to wear. That's a boundary. She's not trying to punish me. I'm sure she got a kick out of me suffering, but that was not what she did. You see, she set a boundary and she controlled what she could control. Now, that turned into what I call the black bag boundary, because she had put it all in a black bag and she threw it away. I'm not saying throw your kids' stuff away. Most of you are not going to do that, and most of your kids' clothes you bought and are worth more than 25 cents a piece. However, can you imagine never nagging your child over that again, and just one day going home tonight and saying, hey, look, here's the deal. When your stuff is on the ground, I know I can't get you to pick it up. And some of this stuff is my stuff that you're leaving everywhere, and I don't have control. But what I can control is your stuff is going in a black bag, and I'm not going to discern things. I am going to take exactly 5 minutes, go around the house, go around your room, and put everything that's on the ground and in places it shouldn't be into a black bag. And that black bag is going to have your name on it, and that black bag is going on the side of the house where I can't see it. Now, your child might say, cool, do it. That's awesome. Your child might say, no, you can't do that because you're going to put milk cups in with my track clothes. Or your child might just totally ignore you. But you see, here's the thing. If you follow through, put it all in the bag, you're going to be less angry. You will have eliminated the nagging conversation that is breaking down your relationship with your child. A lot of the breakdown between you and your child is because you're nagging them, because you're having conversations that aren't going anywhere because you're resenting them for not listening to you, right? The biggest breakdown of your relationship with your children is your resentment of them, even if you're in denial about resenting them. Many of you resent your child for not listening to you because you work so hard about just taking 2 minutes to clean their stuff up. So you put it in the black bag, you don't get angry, they may or may not get angry, and it goes on the side of the house. And they're looking for their dirty clothes and wondering why it's not washed, and you say, oh, the black bag. And they get angry and they yell at you and you don't participate because, hey, I get it, they're angry, that's okay. And then the next time you do it, and the next time you do it. And here's what's wild. You do that the next 100 times instead of nagging them 100 times, they are going to get used to it. You will have improved the relationship by following through with the boundary without anger, even if they get angry. You have taken care of the problem too. A lot of you guys don't problem solve. You want things to go right because you change their mind instead of, I'm going to control what I can control. My main job in helping families is helping every individual focus on what they control while letting go of the things that they can't control, even if they really, really, really think that they should control those things. Does that boundary make a little more sense now? Any other thoughts or questions regarding boundaries?
Where do we get to the black bags?
What's that?
Do you get the black bags?
Yeah. I bet there's some back there. So the way we influence our child is through boundaries. It's through loving on them. It's through modeling. It's through the lessons that you teach. What else? How else do we influence our child?
Time.
Yeah, absolutely. The engagement, right? The time that you spend, the fact that you're there. Absolutely. How about resources? The resources you give them does influence them. Now, I know, you're going, yeah, but I give them so many resources and they don't use it, right? But we want to provide resources, and some resources are resources you give unconditionally. Some are given with boundaries or conditions. Right? That's time. That falls under time. My time I give my daughter, I can't give my daughter all of my time. I want to, but I cannot. That's a resource. My money, that is a resource. The opportunities I provide because of the place that I live or because of the people I choose to meet, the dads I talk to, even though I don't want to talk to them. Those are all resources. The opportunity to go to a school like this, the opportunity to go to college, the opportunity to see a therapist if they're struggling. Those are all resources we give, and we've got to give them resources. We influence them by giving them resources. But we can't shove the resources down because sometimes you want to give them time and they reject you. Sometimes you want them to go see a therapist and they reject it. Sometimes you give them the opportunity to go to the greatest school on earth, Rosary, and they fight it and are angry at you for giving them that resource, right? So remember, you're giving them resources in the moment they might not appreciate it. You make a decision about the resources you want to make available to your child, and then you let go. I have two funds. Well, I have a lot more funds than that, but I've got two funds that I will never touch. One is a fund for my child's mental health. I am not going to sell my home to provide mental health for her. If she becomes an addict, I am not going to ruin everything trying to get her help. But I can tell you this, I will always be willing to give a certain amount of resources towards her mental health, and that's going to go beyond me living. There's going to be a fund for it. And there's going to be a fund for her children. Education. I am not going to give her money to start the 1 millionth high schooler's t-shirt company. But I will always provide for education, whatever that looks like. It might not look how I want to look. But now that's the resources I'm willing to give. And I am giving it in the way that I think is best for me and for her and for everybody, right? I don't know what resources you're willing to give. There's no right or wrong way to give the resources, but know what you're willing to give conditionally and what you're willing to give unconditionally, and set a plan for it without resenting them if they reject it or take it. And by the way, if you're going to give the resource of mental health, give that and then step out of the way and stop trying to control that relationship, please. Sometimes you give a resource and it doesn't go the way you want it to go, but you chose to give that resource. What's another way we influence our children, our daughters especially?
Wisdom.
Okay, that would be teaching. Yeah, that's the lessons that we give, absolutely. Okay, this one's huge. By being happy. Getting a lot of blank stares. It's not just smiling. Smiling is a big part of it. Saying something nice to your children is a big part of it. But it also sometimes has nothing to do. It's having a social life. It is having a vibe in the home that is happy. It's playing music instead of dead silent. It is laughing with your partner. It is coming home and not complaining about your job all the time. It is coming home and not needing everybody to leave you alone while you have a beer and watch some football on TV. It is being happy. Do you know how many times parents tell me, I can't get my child to come out of their room? I don't know. I invite them all the time. I tell them they need to come out. In fact, I locked up their door and made them come out, and they just went like this. And I'm going, why would they want to come out? What do you mean? No, really, why would they want to come out? You're an intense dude, and I don't know if I want to come out of this therapy office. You're scaring me, right? And I asked them, well, what do you do when you come home? What do you mean, what do I do when I come home? I come home and nobody greets me, and no, do you complain about work? Well, no, because nobody listens to me, but you're not very happy, are you? What is the vibe in your home like? What do you mean, what's it like? I watch TV, right? It's like, you're complaining that they're in their room on electronics, but you're sitting down watching TV. And here's the thing, some of you are in total denial about your vibe and about the culture in your home and what you're actually doing. Remember modeling? If you model, I watch TV when I come home from work, and I don't want people to bug me. Guess what they're going to do when they have a bad day at school? Man, put on some music, get goofy, dance around, turn the darn TV off, and try to remind yourself of all the good things and all the happiness you have because you're employed. Here's the thing. A lot of kids right now think that adults are a joke. They don't want, in fact, they don't understand why you're trying to convince them to do things like go get an education, work hard, be consistent, clean the room. And you want to know why they don't understand it, even though your wisdom has been poured into them for 16 years? It's because you're the most miserable person they know. And you're telling me, but I'm happy. I believe you. I'm sure you really are happy inside. But you see, what you're showing your child that they actually see is that you're miserable and you're not fun and you don't have friends and you don't really like your wife and your job, and you're telling them to go to school to be like you, and they're going, now I know exactly what not to do. And dude that my dad doesn't want me to date, who's smoking weed, making bad choices, that's the happiest person I know. You want to influence your child? Get happy. If you don't know how to get happy, get help. And be relentless in that pursuit of finding happiness. You'll notice I didn't say figure out how to make your child happy. I said you get happy. Want to help your child get happy? You get happy. Make sense? Okay. Yeah, some of the things that your kids think about you blow your mind. Some of the things that they are perceptive of and pick up on would blow your mind. Some of the things that they're translating that you wouldn't guess they're translating it that way would blow your minds. Some of the things you're telling them don't make sense because it's in the context of what they're witnessing and experiencing. So how do we get them out of their rooms? By being happy and creating a fun environment and giving them FOMO. You want to get them out of their rooms, make them feel FOMO. Make them feel like they're missing out. Get out of your routine that is just totally daunting for you, your wife, and everybody else in the home. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. If you don't know how to do that, if you're lost right now, get help doing it. Yes?
What's FOMO?
Oh, fear of missing out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say turn off the Wi-Fi.
I get that. And sometimes, like if I don't want to participate in something, I'm going to turn off the Wi-Fi in my home. But here's the thing, a lot of your kids, even if they're failing out of school, are a lot smarter than you, and they will figure out how to get their own Wi-Fi. And a lot of your kids will stare at a wall as they resent you and you resent them in defiance, waiting for you to turn the Wi-Fi on because they have thrown a temper tantrum. And then some of the kids, even the girls, will actually put holes in the wall, right, leaving you totally feeling powerless. And again, there's a time and a place to set a boundary regarding Wi-Fi. Now, boundaries may not change them. Remember, I do it because it's what I believe is right, not because I'm going to get the effect that I want, because I am influencing my child for when? Do you think that I've repeated that enough that it might be important as a mindset? Stop talking so much about the difficult things. Prepare yourself to have a relationship when they're 30. Focus on yourself, God, your marriage, and you've got a really good beginning to influencing and having a better relationship with your child. Pursue that relationship. Put that relationship first, relentlessly, over and over again. A lot of these things I talk about, you've got to get consistent, and that's the last way on my list of ways to influence your child. And that is be consistent in all of it. Don't look for the results right now. Look for the results when? When they're 30, and be consistent in doing what you know is healthy and right and good. And oddly enough, for those of you who are trying to parent from a faith-based place, all of this is mirroring the relationship we have with God. A lot of you really had a fantasy, right? A lot of you, your child was born and you had this fantasy about how things were going to go. It was going to be the same in some ways as your parents, different in some ways, and you were going to make this decision and that decision, and they're going to go to that school. And some of you had a looser version. I just want them to be happy, right? And then they're not happy and they're not doing the things that they should. But all of you held your child when they were really young and had a fantasy of some sort, right? Can anybody remember that fantasy that long ago? I remember my fantasy, and this is a silly one. I even wrote a book because of it, a children's book. I love what I do as a job, but I also love to cook. If I ever fire myself, I'm going to become a chef. I also love to surf. I want so desperately for my child to be a professional surfer who chefs. I want it so badly that I wrote a children's book called Allie the Surfer Chef. That's how badly I want my... It's probably not going to happen. I want that more than I want college for her. Isn't that ridiculous? I want a professional surfer and a famous chef. That's all I want in life. It's not going to happen. That's just my little fantasy.
Does she surf?
She's 4.
But does she serve?
She's just now standing up on my board in the pool. And she cries sometimes. I really want her to ride jet skis. I force her on the jet ski. I don't know if that's bad parenting, but even from that young age, we do things that fit our fantasy. And I'm not saying abandon that. Do not let your fantasy get in the way of your relationship with your child, because they might be completely and totally different from what you ever envisioned, and it might be better than you ever envisioned. It might be worse than you ever envisioned. In fact, you might have to learn to walk alongside a child that you don't like for a lot of parts of their life and yours. But it is your job to remember this is a legacy relationship, and they only have you as a parent. You have to learn to walk alongside them, not for them, not behind them, not ahead of them, but alongside them. You are on your journey. Get this through your heads tonight. Your journey is not their journey as much as you feel like it should be. They have their own journey. Had my parents gotten in the way of my journey the way they probably wanted to, I would not be speaking here tonight. I would not own a center dedicated to helping teens. Their journey is not going to fulfill your fantasy in every way, shape, and form. I hope that it does a little bit. And remember, your journey, you're in the middle of your parenting journey. You better focus on your parenting journey and not them all the time, because you have to only walk alongside them. That mentality will help you with your relationship.
Brandon, thank you. I mean, I feel like I'm like,
Absolutely.
that was a lot. But can we take that and then maybe apply that to a situation where we say like, okay, all of the girls are, let's just, whether it's a romantic partner.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm
good.
trying to walk alongside. I've got 4 girls.
Good job.
I'm trying to walk alongside them, and I'm trying to model. I'm trying to do all those things. In your practice, and like, how does I do a good job, and that looks like what?
Okay, so I can sense the fear of your daughters dating the wrong person, so we will definitely use that example right now, right? And let's, make it bad. Your daughter is dating the drug dealer at the school. Your daughter is totally ignoring you and the family. It sneaks out. You've done everything. You've tried to talk to her. You have tried to persuade her. You've tried to get everybody else to persuade her. You've talked to the school, and you have even grounded her. And somehow she finds a way to maintain this relationship, right? I know none of you girls have gone through this yet, but I want you to imagine that's how bad it can be sometimes. Now, what does the parent want to do? Because you need to protect, right? Because we are all protectors. You've got to protect your child from this horrible person. And she's already not going to school as much. She's already making terrible choices. What do you do? How do you walk alongside her? You can't walk alongside her and say it's okay.
Intimidate the boyfriend and force him to...
Right? Hey.
Make him disappear.
Right? Start stocking up on bullets and guns, right? I mean, that works. And you can try that. But we all know that pushes them closer a lot of times. Anybody else have any ideas?
Get him arrested?
Get him arrested. Problem is, your daughter might be there and get arrested with him. Here's the thing. I don't know what's going to happen because of your daughter's relationship with somebody who's not right for her. You don't know. You don't even know for sure that it's going to result in something terrible. The bad boy might influence them. The good girl might influence him. I don't know, but what I do know is you don't have as much control as you wish you did. I'm not saying don't talk to them about your concerns. I'm not even saying don't put boundaries. Don't give permission to go out and use drugs. Don't give them the car, right? I'm not saying let them go sleep in the room together. Set your boundaries and be consistent with them. A lot of you are going to want to pull the dude in close, though. I don't know. Maybe God put this person in her life so that you could be a better influence. You might be the only great influence. I've seen that story time and time again. But you see, you are not called to do their journey for them. You are called to set boundaries. You are called to like I said, walk alongside them and not accept things that you know are wrong and bad. But sometimes you do not get in the way because you don't have the power. Pull them in close. Do not damage the relationship over trying to change them, as hard as that's going to be in this situation. It's like the ultimate difficult situation. Invite them into your life so that you can be of what? Influence. As hard as it is in this situation, it's more important that you model. It's more important that you set healthy boundaries without anger. It's more important that you love on them, and this is going to sound wild, love on them while being in this relationship. It's more important that you are somebody that they seek out and see as happy. I love you so much that when you fail, I will be here no matter what. I love you so much that I am not going to stop being your father and loving on you even when I hate the decision or the decisions that you're making. That daughter that we're talking about may have a horrible experience with this boy. May even have to go get help because she herself made some poor decisions and became an addict. May fail out of school because of this boy. But you know what? When she fails, if she feels safe to go to dad, she's going to seek dad out. If she doesn't feel safe to go to dad, she's not going to seek dad out, and she might never get back up on her feet. Dad's safe for two ways. Number one, because he never compromised. Number two, because he put the relationship first. Well, and number three, because he's happy and taking care of himself and his marriage and his relationship with God. So as much as, I tell you what, you guys, when I find a real way that you guys can use words to magically get your children to do the right thing when they start to do the wrong thing, I am going to give it to you all for free because I will be a billionaire. I will be able to sell that one-liner for millions at a time. But it doesn't exist and it never will exist. Therefore, we have to make a decision about the men that we want to be as we walk alongside our child, even when they're dating somebody horrible and we can't figure out how to stop them. Make sense?
Yeah, she's dating somebody nice. I still don't like it.
I suggest that you and I talk afterwards. Somebody else. Yes, sir.
What about this new world we live in where this peer pressure, they're forced to be, he sent them to private school to avoid that kind of situation.
That's why you sent your child to private school?
I know. One of the big
I get it.
peer pressure to be what they're not.
Yeah. What do we do about peer pressure?
Yeah, like that. Not for boys, but
Yeah. You know, as a father, as a mother, as just a parent, again, we send our child to private school because we hope that they're not influenced by the bad stuff in the outside world. We live in certain neighborhoods because we're trying to protect them. And then some people are living in certain neighborhoods and purposely not going to private school because they want to influence them the other way, oddly enough, because they think that what you guys are doing is wrong. And there's a million ways we try to control our child's journey. Follow through with what you believe in terms of influencing them. You gave your daughter an opportunity and a resource, and she may or may not get what you want her to get out of it. Yes, with social media, it's seemingly that peer pressure is worse than ever, and we don't know that for sure. Nobody's done an actual study. It is definitely different. There is definitely bigger, different influences than we grew up. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. The fact is Kids are going to seek out instant gratification. They're going to seek out, I'm sorry to say, sex. They're going to seek out things that make them feel good. Sometimes that's alcohol and drugs. They are going to want to belong, even if it's belonging to something bad. They're going to want to be loved. They're going to want to be liked. They're going to want to feel successful without putting a ton of work in. Sometimes they figure it out and want to put a ton of work in, right? But at the end of the day, you know what peer pressure is about? It's about belonging. It's about feeling good. So what's your role in that? Well, if they don't belong at home, that's a problem. If they don't have opportunities to belong, that's going to be a problem. Now, some of them aren't going to belong because you know what? They're awkward and they have social skill deficits. Sorry. Some of your children's journey is going to be really difficult. Some of it's going to go swimmingly well. Some of you are amazing parents to a child who's going to have a difficult journey because God needed you in that child's life. Some of you have a cakewalk. Congratulations. I don't know who's going to peer pressure your child. I don't, everybody says, every therapist online right now says that because of social media, social pressures are more than ever. I don't know that that's true because I think people are just in general really seeking out the same stuff. Like I said, they want to belong, they don't want to work hard, but they want to feel successful, they want to feel good, and they want to feel loved, right? And so how can we influence them the best that we can? And we have what percent influence? 11%. Optimize that influence so that you don't have zero. Okay. Yes, sir.
2 quick questions. One is, when you do counseling, do you do it from a faith-based perspective or from a secular perspective?
Okay, so that is a really good question. Therapy, okay, anytime you seek out a therapist, you want to make sure that it's not secular, that they are coming from a theory, okay, a research-based theory. There are a lot of therapists acting like life coaches, and life coaches acting like they're therapists. Therapists who are life coaches are not therapists. They're just overpaid. Life coaches are not therapists. We have studied something called theory, and we have a responsibility to do therapy out of those research-based theories. Now, I am a man of faith, and if I am seeing a family who would like me to incorporate that, I spend a lot of time getting supervised, learning how to incorporate my faith. What I am not is a pastor. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, and this might be for both of you, but Ms. Marquez, what are some of the most prominent issues that you're seeing come through the counseling department and things that maybe the dads can get ahead of using some of the information that Brandon shared?
Well, to piggyback off your question, sir, about peer pressure and belonging, I think one of the things that is kind of at maybe not the root, but it's definitely part of a lot of the problems we're seeing, is that a lot of teens right now, and I think a lot of people, don't really know who they are. And so part of belonging is being yourself and being accepted for who you truly are, right? Who you were made to be. Fitting in is maybe changing parts of you to be with that crowd, but that's not true belonging, right? So true belonging is being who you are. And so when it comes to their academics, I know one of the biggest things around here is where are they going after high school, college, and through the application process, one of the hardest things is if they don't know who they are, that can be kind of at the center or the root of some of the problems, where they can't figure out how to write their essay. They don't even know what they want to major in. They're not really sure why they're friends with people. They don't know why they like this boy that they're in a relationship with, but he makes her feel good, you know. And so I think one of the ways you can influence your daughter the most is helping her figure out who she was created to be. What are her passions? What are the things that make her feel alive? And your relationship with her is so important and is a vital piece of the puzzle of her figuring that out. Because I think, you know, again, with all the influences that they have around the world, like, you know, making sure that your little piece is also encouraging her to be her, no matter how much she feels like she doesn't fit in, but she's gonna find her place, she's gonna find where she belongs if she can stand in confidence with who she is. And I think that that's probably one of the bigger, I mean, there's a lot of different things we see, but really at the root of it is a lot of, you know, one of the things I ask them all the time, if they come to see me for any reason, it's just part of my icebreakers with them is, you know, tell me something you like, just in general. And then I always end up going to tell me something you like about yourself. And that is a very hard question for a lot of them to ask. I like my hair. Okay, tell me something about like a character quality. What about you as a person do you like? What is something you're proud of yourself for? A lot of times kids have a really hard time answering that question. And part of it is because who goes around, teenagers don't go around asking each other that question. But, you know, having them have the skill to be able to identify what they think they're good at, what they are passionate about, is one way to kind of help, you know, them be able to make decisions, and maybe more of the decisions you're hoping they make because they're confident in who they are. That answers your question.
Yeah, I love that they're seeking an identity. They do not have an identity, and you should, by the way. I know that's kind of hardcore to say, but we're still developing our identity, but we should be further along in developing our identity. And I love what she's saying. They are seeking out identity, and sometimes they don't even know what they like about themselves. Any of you want to be the safe person that they can process that with? Well, if you're the one that's yelling all the time, if you're the one that's taking 90% of the time to parent them instead of only 10% of the time, you're not going to be safe for them to have these wild conversations with. They're going to go here and seek her out, and then they're going to seek their boyfriend out and not you. Yeah. They are seeking, developing, figuring out their identity, and if you force them into a certain identity, you're not going to be safe. If you don't let them make mistakes with seeking out their identity, you're not going to be safe. If you're yelling and nagging and mean about it because you care, you're not going to be safe for them to process what she's talking about with her. She'll be safe. And so I think what's interesting is she says something, find your passion. Do you know how hard it is to figure out what your passions are? You got to feel safe to try a whole bunch of things out and fail before you find passion. Shoot, I deal with adults every week who haven't figured out any of their passions for work, for a hobby, for love, or anything else. And so one of the things she was saying that I was hearing is probably the most common issue that comes through my door is motivation. And parents, teachers, all of us adults, our answer is find what you're passionate about. But it's like you should know what you're passionate about, not what she said. Find, seek out, try out. It might be date the wrong dude to figure out that that's not what you're passionate about. It might be try the wrong sport, quit the wrong sport, right? It might be make a whole bunch of failures. A child who is really good at failing is really good at finding motivation. But that's the number one thing that comes when I get phone calls. If you were to listen to all the phone calls I get in a month, my child's not motivated. Can you help them? My child's not motivated for school at Rosary. Can you help them? My child's not motivated to do anything, go outside, come out of the room. Can you help them? Well, finding identity is a piece of finding motivation. Being willing and able to fail is a piece of finding motivation. Learning to make sacrifice and deal with really difficult feelings without somebody coming at you is a piece of finding motivation. Yes, sir.
I'd like to get your thoughts on something. I think a lot of people, young kids especially, live their lives in fear. And they're afraid of failing, they're afraid of body image, there's fear of missing out, there's a term for it. And they're just afraid of a lot. Afraid
Yes.
of COVID, afraid of losing a parent, afraid of driving the wrong way.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on just helping them to not live a life in fear?
Walk alongside them when they fail at things you think they shouldn't have failed at. Right, so many of you work so hard to make sure that they don't fail that you don't allow them to fail. A child who's good at failing is going to be more successful. I was really good at failing. My parents never let me like fail a class in school, but they also didn't enable it. Water polo was my passion, man, because it was the only sport I found that I was actually good at. But my parents were going to let me fail right out of school, and I would have lost water polo. And so don't enable your child, but don't get mad at them for failing. Walk alongside them. Don't tell them it's okay, right? A lot of parents think that if I don't rail my child for failing, I'm not doing my job because I'm telling them it's okay. That's not true. Let them know that you're angry, or let them know that you are disappointed. That's okay. Share your feelings. Don't act it out. Don't process it with them. There's a big difference.
What's that difference?
My daughter's name is Allie. Allie, I'm bummed. I was really hoping that putting you at Rosary was going to be something that led you to go to Loyola Marymount, because that's where I went. I'm going to need a moment. I'm bummed that you failed out. I'm bummed that they're not allowing you to go there. We need to talk about what this is going to look like. In fact, I'm not just bummed, I'm pretty angry. Your favorite dinner is Reunion Kitchen. We're going there tonight. Tomorrow we're going to talk about this. What are you going to get there? That's much different than, how many times did I tell you just to do the homework? All you had to do was go to your teacher and turn in the late homework. I even did half of it for you. I am so sick of this. That is the difference. One just damaged the relationship and made me not influential in any way, shape, or form. The other surprised the heck out of her because I am going to dinner with her. And you know what? I'm going to be happier going to Reunion Kitchen and not dealing with this tonight. She's going to be happier not dealing with this tonight. And she is going to be more likely to listen to me in the future by the time she's 30. One is going to result in her going, well, forget you, Dad. I didn't want to go to that dumb school anyways. Those people are freaks. And the other is going to say, you know what, I messed up. More likely to lead to her internally, maybe never telling me, but her admitting to herself that she messed up, and wow, she's going to be loved through it, and it's okay that she failed, but it's not okay that she failed. It's kind of weird. We want them to feel like it's okay that they failed, but not okay that they behaved a certain way. Make sense?
Yeah, for the most part, just in the beginning part, even that guilt with that somehow, the way that you...
I'm disappointed. It's okay to let them know how you're feeling. You're not acting it out. There's a difference. I'm not going to treat you differently. I made a decision about who I want to be and how I want to treat you. I'm not saying there's not a time to say difficult things and be stern, but I'm not going to act it out and process it with you. Because that isn't my role in your life, and that's not what's going to influence you. Make sense? Bless you. I think we have a little bit more time. Anybody else have comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Can you talk just a little bit more on the difference between the love and the love on?
Oh, yeah.
I know a lot of dads, I won't mention any names in the room, but I know a lot of us, we grew up in households where, you know, we look and we'll say, I know so-and-so loved me, but they never told me that.
Yes.
I just know
Good.
they love me because they do so many,
I love that.
so many of these things.
Okay, loving your child and loving on them are two different things. They should go hand in hand, but they don't always. You feel like you're loving your child because you're making difficult decisions, giving them difficult lessons, being stern with them, stockkeeping them, and doing all this stuff that's hard for you to do and is exhausting for you to do. You feel like you're loving on them, but you're not. You're expending energy, but that is not. Loving on them is what they experience or don't experience. Right? Loving on them might be as simple as, I love you, all the time, even when it's difficult to say I love you. Loving on them might be taking them to Reunion Kitchen. Loving on them might be making the choice to not yell in a moment where you feel like yelling. Loving on them might be a hug. Loving on them might be refraining from a behavior that's going to get in the way of the relationship and waiting. It might be a volume or a tone that you use. It might be a look. It might be body language. It might be a facial expression. It's something that they experience that builds the relationship, even if it's incremental. I had a parent once who told me that their child wasn't talking to them at all. How do I love on them? I said, once a week, say I love you and do nothing else. But I got to get them back done. You see, they've rejected everything. They tried everything. This isn't like we came out the gate with this. This was, everything had failed, and this child despised this parent. It took 2 years. The only communication other than the child lashing out was, hey, I love you. All of a sudden, bam, this parent comes to the group and says, I cannot believe it. My child is seeking me out, wants to go shopping, and I'm going, like, you're gonna buy them stuff? Okay, you do you. But it was all of a sudden, this parent couldn't believe it. Really, the most loving thing they did was almost nothing. I don't know what loving on them is going to be, but I do know that you can love the heck out of your child, and their experience of you is not love. Sometimes they don't give you an opportunity to love, and all it is you saying I love you and they reject you. It's loving on them in spite of them rejecting you consistently, and because that is your role in their life. And then sometimes they let you totally love on them, like sit with them, hug them, watch TV with them, right? Cook them a meal, cook their friends a meal. There's a million ways to love on them. Loving them is totally irrelevant on their side of it. It is your love for them that is not a behavior, is just an idea. It isn't influential. It doesn't, I know this is wild because like it's going to go against everything you've learned. Loving them is useless in terms of influencing them if it doesn't translate to loving on them in some way, shape, or form. Does that help?
Yes.
Anybody else?
Going once? No.
All right, you guys.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate your time.